The NBA draft and free agency are behind us. Summer League is getting underway, and I am missing basketball. So today is simple and it is classic. Way too early NBA power rankings for next NBA season. But let's dive into those bottom five teams. We have the Pelicans, the Jazz, the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Nets to round off the bottom five. Whether young or old, these are rosters that are in the midst of their rebuild. And in the case of the Pelicans, their star player just can't stay healthy. They are the West version of the Philadelphia 76ers. We know their trajectory and their outlook would look different if Zion could stay healthy. But year after year, that's not the case. So we have to take that into account. But ultimately, these bottom five teams is the year about progressing, being in some games that you're not supposed to, and getting your young players experience at the NBA level. So a couple years down the line, your team can take that step as a whole. Now, the next 10 teams I like to call the Purgatory Tier, where their roster is conflicting depending on where they're trying to go, because they either have a superstar player or just a well-rounded roster, so they're good enough to not be a bottom five team, but they're not good enough to compete. So they're kind of in that purgatory tier. We have the Suns with Devin Booker, a top 15 arguable player in the game, but around him, not much to really talk about. Toronto, Portland, Chicago, these are teams that have a lot of young, nice pieces, and you want to see them stay healthy, and you want to see them grow together, but ultimately, again, they're just going to be playing teams at the best this season. Now, Miami made an interesting trade, getting Norman Powell in a recent trade last week. That does help elevate their ceiling, but ultimately, can we all really collectively agree they're not going to be more than a 8 seed in a first-round exit, just like they were last year. So that's why I have them down here at 21. Spoelstra is going to have this group playing higher than what we all expect them to be. And again, I'm sure they'll be a playoff team when it's all said and done. Now, we already talked about Milwaukee. It is a one-man show over there. And they had a very interesting offseason. Of course, letting go of Damian Lillard after he tore his Achilles. Not very humane over there in Milwaukee's front office. But you brought in a center in Miles Turner, who I love, but he doesn't really elevate your ceiling. So at most, I could see him being a 4 seed. And if Giannis wants to bring this team to the top of the mountain, we're going to be in for a treat as NBA fans, because he's going to have a 2018 LeBron level run for that team to be a legitimate contender. Sacramento and Memphis, two teams that have talent. In Memphis' side, of course, you have Jaren Jackson and Santi Aldama in the mix as well. For Sacramento, you have a lot of nice pieces like Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, etc. But you're just stuck in purgatory because, again, you're just not a team that is going to compete ever at the highest of level in the Western Conference. You put this team in the Eastern Conference, and I think we look at them as a legitimate contender on a yearly basis. They're just a victim of their conference. Regardless, I think it's going to be a busy season for them as far as moving some of these stars. Now, for Boston, it is a fall from grace because of the injuries to their star player and the second apron being the way that it is. Boston has lost a lot this offseason. They lost Jason Tatum due to injury, Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. You're going to lose Luke Cornett and Al Horford on top of that as well. It is going to be Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, and a Derek White, of course. I should have mentioned him. It's going to be those three guys kind of taking on the entire Eastern Conference, which will give them a chance because they have a great coaching staff and it's a weaker conference. But ultimately, you're just not a contender anymore, at least in my eyes. Now, San Antonio is a young team and relatively unproven team, but if we know anything about the crew so far, when Wemby's on the court, that team looks different, and I think this year they can make a play-in run with all the young talent they have. I'm just hoping Wemby can return to form, and he doesn't have any more injury scares and blood clot scares going forward in his career, because he's special when he has the opportunity to play. Now we get into the tier of teams where if everything falls right, whether by injury of other team or just the fact that you're getting hot, you can make a run in your conference, but I don't think these teams are going to win their conference this upcoming season. Indiana at the bottom, despite losing Miles Turner and Tyrese Halliburton, they are one of the rare teams that are veteran-led. They have the continuity across the board, and they have one of the top 5 coaches in the game. So Indiana, riding off the highs of last season, if everything falls right, if they get a favorable playoff schedule where there's some injuries on the other side, I can see them making it to the second round of the playoffs. but ultimately I think that is their kind of their ceiling without their star players outside of Pascal Siakam. Philadelphia, they're always going to be in the preseason mix because of the talent they have. Maxey, Oubre, Paul George, Joel Embiid, a good head coach in Nick Nurse. I almost said Doc Rivers. Of course, that was the years prior. Nick Nurse is a great coach, and I want to give him his credit there. They did lose guys like Yabusele this offseason, but outside of that, they are veteran-led. They have a superstar top 5 level player when healthy. They just need him to be healthy. If he can, this team should, with their talent, win the Eastern Conference, as crazy as that may sound given what they were last season. At 13 is the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flag, of course, is growing into his own, and he will continue to do so this entire season. You have Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, a nice center rotation of Lively and Gafford. You are just waiting for number 2, Kyrie Irving, or I guess number 11 now, to return to your roster post All-Star break. Once he does, and if he can get into his groove before the playoff run, this is going to be a very scary lower seed, maybe play-in seed that can upset a lot of people. Now for Atlanta, you're getting healthy and you're getting better. Of course, you have Trae Young, and I think he's going into a season where not only he's got a bit of a target on his shoulder where he's got to prove himself, but he has the best roster constructed around him ever in his NBA career. You're getting healthy with Jalen Johnson returning to the mix. Of course, you're bringing in a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. If he can stay healthy, you got Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Zachary Shea, Trae Young, of course. This starting 5 is great. Of course, you have a bit of a deep bench as well. Atlanta can make some noise because they are used to being the underdog under Trae Young. They can make a run like they did a couple years ago, and I can honestly see them going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Detroit could be in that argument as well. Now, they lost some pieces this offseason, but ultimately, this is a team with Cade Cunningham coming into his own. You have Jaden Ivey, a nice center rotation led by Jalen Duren. You have Tobias Harris. You are a veteran-led team with an underrated head coach in JB Bickerstaff. This is a team that, just like last year, hangs their hat on the defensive side of the ball, and they let their superstar take them over the top. They can do that yet again this year, but they're also going to get Jaden Ivey, hopefully healthy for the entire season. I'm excited for Detroit, man. I'm excited if they can live up to the expectations. Now, as we head into the top 10, these are all teams that if the cards fall in their favor, they have the talent, and whether by conference or whatever the case may be, I think they can actually make a run and win their conference. The Orlando Magic, representing the Eastern Conference, they're at number 10. I think Paolo is the top 15 player in the game. You got Franz, you got Jalen Suggs getting healthy. Wendell Carter is a bit of a questionable piece, but I think you can work around it with a defensive mind, a good head coach in Jamal Mosley, and of course you brought in Desmond Bane this offseason as well. They can get some things going, but I want to see the offense make a complete 180. They can't be bottom of the league anymore, right? They got to at least be above average in the league. And if they can do that with that defense, they could win the Eastern Conference. The Clippers, this is a team that going into the playoffs last year, some people started to say, hey, they could make a run because Harden was playing at a great level. Kawhi was getting healthy. Of course, Tyronn Lue is a top 5 coach in the game. You had Norman Powell and Zubac career years, and they won 17 of 18 games going into the playoffs last year. This is a team that a lot of people, they thought if they can get past the Nuggets, they could make a run. But they're returning this year with John Collins, no Norman Powell. So a bit of an interesting look offensively. Maybe I can bump them down a couple spots, but regardless, you're coming back with a veteran group with a Kawhi Leonard that wants to get one more ring before he hangs it up. And of course, Harden is still looking for his first. Golden State, you could have made the argument that they would have made it to the Western Conference Finals last year if Stephen Curry didn't get hurt because they won game 1 of that second round against Minnesota. But this is a team that's coming back, and now they have more continuity with Jimmy Butler in the mix. So again, you have Curry, you have Butler, you have Buttered, as they call him there in Buddy Hield. Draymond Green's returning. You did lose a guy like Kevon Looney, which was a good locker room piece, and I think that'll go under the radar. But ultimately, Quentin Post had some good games last year. He's able to stretch the floor in this Golden State system. I'm interested to see how Golden State can round out this roster. Maybe you bring in Al Horford to close off the offseason. Regardless, Golden State is going to be in the mix when you have guys like Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond leading your team. Now, Houston at number 7. is a bit unproven because this is a team that shocked the world last year, made it to being a top 2 seed in the Western Conference, and now you add Kevin Durant to the mix while not really losing pivotal pieces in this rotation. So for Houston, you have everything in line to be a Western Conference contender next season with the pieces that you have, because you're bringing Kevin Durant and his job is simple. Do what you have done your entire career. Score the basketball and be the closer. If he can do that, honestly, with the defense Houston has, again, they can win the conference, but you want to see it happen, right? It's one thing to have expectations. It's another thing to live up to them as a younger roster. So I want to see them do it, and I want to see them get their first ring in a long time. For the Lakers at number 6, you have Luka, you have LeBron. You're going to be in the mix. You do have a well-rounded roster. You still have questions at center, though you did just bring in DeAndre Ayton. I think name kind of blinds us on what he actually does on the court. Offensively, he could be a bit of a ball stopper, and they already have a couple of those here with the Lakers. And again, he's not the greatest defender. So at number 6, you're there because you have the superstar talent that can just single-handedly wipe out any flaws this roster has. But ultimately, I'm worried about the surrounding pieces around Luka and LeBron. But as a Cavalier fan, I'd love to see LeBron get one more. Heading into the top 5, you have a great mix of teams with younger talent, some superstar level like Shea, Jokic, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, and Donovan Mitchell. But around these guys, you have a lot of good veteran pieces growing into their own and just being very key in their roles. But for the Thunder at the top, you check all the boxes. You're coming back with the same roster. You are a team that is in a great situation to do the unthinkable in the second apron era, and that is to become a dynasty. Now, again, you won one. We've had a different champion in the last 8 seasons. Can they, I guess, do the unthinkable, which is not only have a great young roster in the second apron era, but also to repeat as champions? We have to wait and see, but ultimately, there's no reason to take Oklahoma City out of the number 1 spot. But on their tail, you have a team like Denver, Jokic. Of course, he's had a couple demands this offseason, and they well-rounded this roster. Cam Johnson instead of Michael Porter Jr. plays his role better than what Michael Porter will do. You bring in a guy like Bruce Brown back into the mix. Of course, you get a guy like Jonas Valanciunas. This is a roster that is a lot better on paper, and I'm excited to see what Jokic can do now that he actually has some help and he doesn't have to play 47 minutes a night. For the Knicks, talk about playing 47 minutes a night. You won't have to do that now that Mike Brown is in the mix. He's a defensive-minded head coach, as we know, and this is a team that with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns offensively, their offense is going to be fine, but their stars are going to be more well-rested this entire season, and come playoff time, they aren't going to have to play 40 minutes a night. But if they need to, these are guys that have already done that for 2 seasons with Tibbs, so they're going to be ready for whatever is thrown at them this year, and that's the point I'm getting at. I do think that with a point that I will mention in a moment, the Knicks are the favorite to come out of the East this year, at least in my opinion, as a Cavaliers fan. Now, as much as I want to say that I'm a homer and I believe in my team and we have everything that we need to get it done, and to represent the Eastern Conference, we lack a backbone. We lack a mentality that it takes to win a conference, let alone the NBA Finals. We have all the right pieces, right? We have depth, we have superstar talent, and we have a great head coaching staff. But ultimately, we just don't have that mentality when it comes to playoff time to flip that switch and to just turn up that second gear and third gear when needed to win these tough games. That's why we flamed out in the playoffs every single year so far in the Donovan Mitchell era. He can only do so much, and ultimately, Evan Mobley is the only piece that I've seen progress in this Donovan Mitchell era. But at number 5, well, of course, we went backwards there. Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, a team that has went to 2 straight Eastern or Western Conference Finals. Julius Randle is coming off of one of the best years of his career. This is a team that I think will be back in the mix. They're veteran-led. They know what they need to do, but now they should be hungrier than ever to, hey, maybe third time is the charm. Maybe when we get to the Western Conference Finals again, maybe we can actually get over the top and win it this time to represent the West. But ultimately, those are my top 5 teams. Let me know your predictions down in the comment section below. Where does your team rank, and where do you think they should rank? Am I too high, too low on them? Of course, let me know down below. But that's going to do it, man. If you enjoyed, support us down below. Of course, if you're on Spotify, rate and review us, and I'll see you guys next time.